Hey everyone, welcome to Truth, Lies, and Shenanigans. My name is Neo. Tonight we have East.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for showing up.
We have Liz E.
Good evening, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Hopefully, you are safe and sound.
And tonight we have a special guest host sitting in for Jam. We have Z.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome to the show, Z. Appreciate you joining
Thank you for
us.
having me.
All right.
Thank
So,
you.
what is Truth, Lies, and Shenanigans all about? We share our truth with you, call out all those lies, and point out the shenanigans going on. And we try to have some fun with some shenanigans of our own. But the most important thing about this show is you. The reason we insist on doing our show live is because we don't want to just talk to you, we want to talk with you. So join in that conversation. If you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, leave comments in the comments section or hit us up on Twitter at TLS Live Show. Your comments will display live on the screen right above my head, and we'll shout out some good ones if we see them. Now, if you're in one of the hosts' Facebook watch parties, real important, if you want us to see your comments, you'll have to leave that watch party and join the live feed directly on the page. So we do want to see those comments. All right, so we have one rule, guys, and that's no cussing. So East, tell us what the consequences are.
That's right, Neo. On this show, there is no profanity. So to
Or
keep
there
us
shouldn't be.
on that track, uh, we've developed some rules about no profanity, no cursing. Those rules are: if you curse one time, that's $10 in the tip jar. Two times, $20 in the tip jar. Third time, that's when, as Jam would say, you receive a Kellyanne.
He wrote me
And that's a
beautiful
public
letters.
and
And they're
immediate.
great letters.
There he goes,
We
our
fell in love.
our dear leader. That's a public and immediate praising of 45 that lasts on all your social media platforms for 24 hours.
Oh,
24 hours. All right, so watch your mouths tonight, because I know we got some hot topics, guys.
okay.
And you're sitting in for Jam tonight. He has $0. He's done pretty good over the few episodes we've
Oh, so
had.
if I get a penalty, it goes to Jam.
It might. We'll see. Since you're a guest host, we're gonna hold him accountable. No.
Because he did curse once, but he used it in terms of a quote, and he didn't get penalized for it.
Right. So okay, we're gonna avoid quotes. All right. You win. You win that argument. If you quote a cuss word, you're all right.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. All right. So
All
we
right.
have a great show ahead. It's an entire show of Jam Session, our version of Hot Topics, where your hosts share what's on their mind. Much of it's based on your posts and comments throughout the week, things that you've talked about with them. Now that you know a little bit about our show, we need to learn a little more about our host, especially our guest host. So we have a little thing we're going to start calling the hot seat. All right. So
Ooh,
I'll ask a
okay.
few rapid fire questions, and Z, you're going to say the first thing that comes to your mind. Okay?
Ooh, okay.
So you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So we're going to find out something about you real quick. All right. Favorite color?
Lime green.
Be rich or have peace on earth?
Ooh, peace on earth. Peace
Peace.
on
Oh, okay. All right.
earth.
Jordan or LeBron?
LeBron.
Bernie or Biden?
Biden.
Okay. Netflix and chill or going out clubbing?
Oh, Netflix and chill.
All right.
Too old for the club. Too old for the club.
High school or college?
Ooh, that's a good one. Wow.
Ooh. Okay. I'm gonna say college,
All right.
but I really think it's high school.
And last one, Game of Thrones or The Wire?
Oh,
Game of Thrones. Game of
All
Thrones.
right.
Game of Thrones.
All right. So hopefully you have some idea what Z is all about from that. All right, but I do have a question for the rest of us. All right, you ready, guys? All right, we have a
Ready?
question
Sir.
for everybody. So, what was your first job? East.
First real job.
Yeah, first real job.
I was working in actually Smithsonian as a cashier. I believe that was the exact title. Yeah, cashier.
I think I remember that actually.
I think you did.
All right, Liz. E.
I mean, are we including mayor summer youth jobs?
Yeah, first job.
Okay.
First.
So my first job was a mayor summer youth program job when I was 14. It was at Taft Junior High School. That's when we met at Taft Junior High School. And then we went over and we basically chaperoned and tutored students at John Burroughs.
Nice.
But yeah, I was a mayor summer youth program. Bought my own first Gucci with my own money with the mayor summer youth program dollars.
All right. And Z.
Ooh. Was it one of those tote ones?
I still have it.
That was hot. That was
All
hot.
right, Z.
My first job was at the school rectory of my grammar school, St. Nicholas of Tolentine, which I went to with Neo's wife and sister-in-law. We all went to that school together, and I worked in the rectory as their secretary. You know,
Nice.
folding up the bulletins for church and all of that good stuff.
All right. And my first job was People's Drug. Actually, my second job was the mayor's summer youth program, but my first job was People's Drug.
People's
People's.
Drugstore.
Yeah.
Wow, taking it back.
Pre CVS. Actually, I think CVS bought them like a year later or changed their name or whatever. But yeah, I think I was underage actually, and I had to quit. So my first official job.
Child labor laws.
First official job was a summer youth program. So, all right. So, now we got some shout outs. So, anybody got any shout outs they want to throw out there? What you got? Anybody? Good. Please.
Shout out to Reuven last week, Sunday. Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate
Great
you.
show, Reuven.
Good job.
Great show.
You got somebody?
I'd like to give a shout out to my sister Jacqueline. I'm not sure if she has yet joined the party, but if she is watching, hello, and call me,
And Z? Any shout outs?
If my sisters are watching, shout out Yami, Damaris, thank you. And to Mel for hooking this up and
I'm pretty sure she's
suggesting me.
watching. I'm pretty sure she's
Yay,
watching.
hi Mel.
Shout out to Mel too, but I do want to do a shout out to somebody who did some comments on our page, Melanie Durkins and Lizzie. You probably remember her. We had some pretty intense conversations with her. Melanie, I don't know if your perspective has changed at all, but if you're all about love and no racism, it's time to start preaching it to the right people. Start dealing those people who are dealing that hate. That's who you need to go talk to. All right, guys. All right, so jam sessions.
Damn.
All right, how this works, we have our 4 hosts, and each of them comes to the table with a different set of topics, hot topics they want to discuss. And like a jam session, we just jump in and let the conversation flow. And remember, your comments help to drive the conversation. Now, once time is up, you'll hear this, all right? And that'll let you know that it's time to move on to the next topic and the next host. And we'll let them talk about whatever they want. So, let's see. I think let's start off with Liz today. Lizzie.
We're going to start off with me. I think this
What
is
you
my
got?
first off jam sessions. So we are going to talk about a story that broke my heart this morning. Mr. Drew Brees,
Oh, boy.
NFL
Everyone is looking
Saints
back now at Kaepernick's protests from a few years ago, and obviously they were always about police brutality, and now it's coming back to the fore, and a lot of people expect that we will see players kneeling again if and when the NFL season starts. I'm curious how you think the NFL will and should respond to that, and of course, you're such a leader in the league. What is your responsibility as a leader in times like this for the rest of your teammates and players in the league?
Well, I will never agree with anybody disrespecting the flag of the United States of America or our country. Let me just tell you what I see or what I feel when the national anthem is played and when I look at the flag of the United States. I envision my two grandfathers who fought for this country during World War II, one in the Army and one in the Marine Corps, both risking their lives to protect our country and to try to make our country and this world a better place. So every time I stand with my hand over my heart, looking at that flag and singing the national anthem, that's what I think about. And in many cases, it brings me to tears, thinking about all that has been sacrificed, not just those in the military, but for that matter, those throughout the civil rights movements of the 60s, and everyone, and all that has been endured by so many people up until this point. And is everything right with our country right now? No, it's not. We still have a long way to go. But I think what you do by standing there and showing respect to the flag with your hand over your heart is it shows unity. It shows that we are all in this together. We can all do better, and that we are all part of the solution.
Everyone is looking back now at.
So, Lee, what you got to say about that?
So, again, like I said previously, it really took me for surprise. I was taken aback. And let's be clear, this is not the first time that Drew Brees has made these exact same comments or sentiments about this issue. I think the first time he talked about Colin Kaepernick's protests and other NFL players joining him in the protest was in 2016. And at that time, he said, I don't agree with it. I think players should stand for the flag. However, if you look at the question that was posed to him, which was, how would you deal with this situation in present times with the NFL players, you being a leader, not only with the Saints in your Saints locker room, but also around the league? How would you deal with this issue? And how would you talk to your players? And he never answered that question. He took a more personal tone, talking about his feelings about the flag, which I don't know how many times we have to say it. The protests were never about the flag. But not only did he talk about, how he feels about the flag, he got dug deep and brought out that age old, well, my family was in the military, my family served. And it's something that I find that a lot of white Americans, a lot of uber patriots like to use to suggest that Black people don't serve, that Black people have not been in the military, that Black people did not serve in World War II, in the Korean War, in Vietnam, in Iraq, in Afghanistan, etc. And I would like to say to Drew, and he's very lucky that I'm no longer in a position where I can interview his hind parts. I would tell him, my father and all of his brothers were World War II vets, Black men. They came back from the war to a country that spit in their face, that did not honor their service, that told them you were still nothing. You are still less than. You are still a Black man and a white man's world. And so, whereas you are sad thinking about your grandfather and how he served and what the flag means to you, I'm sad in that a lot of America has not changed since when my dad got back from the war. It's 2020, and we are still dealing with these intense race issues. And so, my question to the panel is, what do you think about Drew Brees' perspective? Is it about the flag for you? Do you think that the NFL owes Colin Kaepernick an apology, considering that when he was protesting, when he was taking that knee back in 2016, it was for these very issues, police brutality?
East.
I mean, I would first of all say I have to agree with you. Like he brought in the flag comment out of nowhere. Like it didn't seem to answer the question. But to your question, yeah, the whole Colin Kaepernick issue back in 2016 was unfortunately related to Trump, where the owners got scared. They did. Trump created this narrative that had nothing to do with what Kaepernick was discussing. Kaepernick was clearly discussing, like you said, the issue around police brutality, specifically towards black and brown men. And then Trump and those conservatives got it. The dialogue, the message caught up into the military, and he was disrespecting the army and all of this. It got totally away from what Kaepernick was trying to do. Yes, the NFL, it's long overdue that they provide Kaepernick with an apology. And it's ridiculous. And honestly, to me, it's ridiculous that he's gone this long without even a tryout. Like, I mean, an apology, and then I don't know if he can still play football. That's a different question. But definitely start with the apology.
All right. Z?
And it should be noted before everyone else starts giving their commentary or answering my question, it should also be noted that, especially Drew Brees, if you're watching, because I know you are, it should be noted that it wasn't Drew Brees' decision to take a knee. He was advised by a Green Beret that would be better than sitting out the protest. It would be better for
because
him.
He was sitting down
Right. During the and the Green Beret, he consulted with this Green Beret. They had a very, intense conversation, and he advised him that this would be a more respectful gesture versus you just sitting down, which some may see as disrespect. And so a Green Beret advised him of this. Drew Brees, as far as I know, has never even been in the military.
Yeah. Z, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I agree with both of you, Liz and East. I honestly think this is just par for the course. What's the saying? You keep moving the goal line. They tried sit-ins. That's not okay. They tried marches. That's not okay. They tried walkouts. That's not okay. They tried kneeling. That's not okay. So if you're going to keep moving the goalposts, I mean, I guess you have to twist your logic in a way to fit whatever narrative you want it to fit to stop somebody from doing what you don't want them to do. You know what I mean? And this is just par for the course. And, interestingly, he said that, disrespecting the flag is just the worst thing you can do. And my question to him would be, is, disrespecting the flag worse than disrespecting life?
Yep.
Forget black, forget white, forget it's life. We're talking about human life. You can sew another flag, Yep. You can't bring life back. So I think it's just par for the course.
And never once in his comments did he talk about life. He certainly didn't talk about George Floyd's life or anything that's going on right now. What he referenced is what the current state of affairs in America right now. He said, are things good here right now? No. Making it sound like, we have bad weather or, something so
He could be talking about coronavirus.
Exactly. Versus the actual country is on fire right now. People are pissed. People are outraged. People are tired.
Yep.
And for him to just totally take this personal stance of, well, this is what I think of when I see the flag. It's like, Drew, we're not talking about that. We're not talking about that.
To Z's point.
Well, it goes to the property thing. It goes to the property. How people are more upset about the loss of property, the destruction of property, than they are about the reason why the destruction of property is happening in the first place. They're more upset about something that can literally be replaced, that's insured more than likely, than they are of a life that cannot come back.
So to Z's point, for me, moving the goalpost is the thing. See, I don't think the reality is that they're moving the goalpost back. I think the reality is they just don't want you to speak up. I mean, they want you to take it and to keep on taking it. So when they tell you that, you can't take a knee, you can't march, you can't, riot, basically they're saying you can't do anything. You just have to take this. And the reality is, I'm not willing to take it anymore.
Well, his own
I mean,
teammate
but
called him out. Malcolm Jenkins called him out. How do you go into that locker room in the fall and look these men in the face and expect them to believe in you again
Mm-hmm.
when you couldn't even, stay on course and address our pain here? You totally like glossed over that and turned it into this idea that somehow black people, somehow people who protest are anti-American, are anti-flag, are not patriotic. And it's a tired trope that gets, put out there in the public sphere over and over and over about how black people don't believe in service, how we don't believe in the military. And I don't understand where that comes from.
All right. East, we're going to move on to you, and I think you have a related topic.
yes, I believe we're going to talk
Yeah.
about. Yeah, and actually, this was kind of brought up actually last Sunday. Lizzie and I were talking. We were kind of communicating about Kaepernick. I suggested he might sign with the Vikings. To kind of almost kill two birds with one stone from a public relations standpoint. And Lizzie asked me, "Well, where'd I get that from?" I said, "I just made it up." I didn't know at the time that Joe Lockhart, who writes for CNN, had actually written an article Saturday the 30th about that very topic, about how the Vikings could make a play for Colin Kaepernick for that exact reason, because of the uh, first of all, he did relate to football. From a football perspective, uh, it's a wise move because they really have no backup quarterback, legitimate backup quarterback. But then he did take it to the public relations standpoint because of obviously what's going on in Minneapolis, and to say at least uh, try to quell the waters in Minnesota and within the NFL, with everything going on, especially with the hypocritical statement that the NFL released last week regarding. I think the NFL said that they were uh,
Yeah,
basically
that was some
attuned to
BS.
what's going on, and then neglecting what just occurred back in 2016
Right.
surrounding Colin Kaepernick. Um, well, Lizzie, since we kind of discussed it, what are your thoughts?
I do agree with the question that you posed a little bit ago about whether or not he is still able to play football, if he would be an asset to a team at this point, because we're talking, again, he first took the knee in 2016. I think the last time he took a snap was at the end of 2016, if I'm not mistaken. Um, but on the flip side, you have to look at the roster of some of these quarterbacks that have been signed over the past 3 seasons, and it is just atrocious. So you can't tell me that he's any worse than a lot of these other guys. But earlier this week, I think on his personal page, actually, it might have been on the Truth Lies and Shenanigans page, but Neo posed a question: wouldn't it be gangsta if George Bush came out and endorsed Joe Biden? So my question back to you is, in that same vein, and my answer to that was no, it would not be gangster, but that's a conversation for another day.
That's the
My,
conversation for the day, actually.
my question to you would be, wouldn't it be gangster, given that this is the nation's capital, that Dan Snyder is a Trump supporter, and that Trump is here, and we know it's not going to happen, but we're talking about, just hypothetically, if
Right.
the Anacostia, that Washington team, signed Colin Kaepernick?
I think it'd be awesome, personally.
I
I
mean,
think I think it would inspire the entire city, 100%.
That would be awesome. I'd take him in a heartbeat.
if you're going,
I mean,
if you're
just
going based off
talent
track
alone.
record, yeah, if you're going based off track record, he beat out Alex Smith in Frisco.
Yep.
So the league, so coaches have shown that he's better than him. They drafted Haskins to replace Alex Smith. So kind of, if you're thinking logistically, He's better than any quarterback that the Skins have on the roster currently. And of course, he hasn't played in 4 seasons, so you kind of have to account for that. But in terms of talent at their peak, when they were at their peaks, Colin Kaepernick's peak was better than uh, Alex Smith's peak, and we really don't know what Dwayne Haskins' peak is. So, they're number teams. He's better right now, having not played in 4 years. He's better than at least 60% of the quarterbacks currently in the league.
I want to point out a couple of comments online. Vaughn Perry says, I don't think Cap should sign at this point. What does he gain? And then Ernest Cooper says, we shouldn't compromise requesting equal rights. Cap shouldn't have even changed to kneeling. They never had any intention of acknowledging him. So.
Yeah.
I think this would probably be the most problematic place that he could sign, Washington, D.C., but I also think it might be the safest place he could sign, because everyone here, well, not everyone, but a good majority of the citizens of Washington, D.C. are anti-Trump. Yes. And one, I think a lot of people who would normally go to games, because you have those people who are season ticket holders who are going to be like, I'm not going. Well, then they're going to sell their tickets. And the people that were down for Cap's cause are going to snatch up those tickets, mostly brown folk, and you're going to see the crowd erupt when he takes the field. Honestly, we know it's not going to happen, at least not here. But I do think it would be gangster if, he signed with the Anacostia.
Before we move on to the next one, I want Z to get in a comment. Did you want to have anything to say on that, Z?
Look, I don't know much about football, and I don't care. But I will say this. I will say this. Like the last comment you read. What does he have to gain? Why would he go back to that? He was treated poorly. He was treated disgracefully. And, what is he going to go back for CTE injuries? Like, give me a break. And on top of that, I don't feel that the NFL should have the opportunity to monetize off of him, to monetize him, because, they will. All of a sudden they'll be like, oh, yeah, I stand with you, and getting all that black money. And
you kind of agree with Vaughn Perry over there. All right.
I sure do, Vaughn.
Can I just answer your question very quickly?
Go ahead.
I don't necessarily think he, in the grand scheme of things, has a lot to gain. I think it goes more into hubris and the mindset of the average professional athlete who is obsessed with competition and obsessed with playing. And I think if the NFL extended an offer to him tomorrow, I am 100% confident that he would accept them and take them up on that offer because he still wants to play. And I think he has a chip on his shoulder, and he feels like he has something to prove. Whether he should do it or not is, I don't know. But I think he would do it.
All right, Ernest Cooper made a great comment. He said, "I'd hate for him to go to Washington. He'd have to root for him." All right.
Because he's a Bama Cowboys fan.
All right. So let's move on to the next one. So, since you brought it up, Lizzie, and we were talking about it, George Bush put out a statement. He says, the heroes of America, from Frederick Douglass to Harriet Tubman to Abraham Lincoln to Martin Luther King Jr., are heroes of unity. Their calling has never been for the faint-hearted. They often reveal the nation's disturbing bigotry and exploitation, stains our character, sometimes difficult for the American majority to examine. All right. So he put out a statement supporting protests against racial injustice. So my question is, do you feel the statement is genuine, given his past political record on race? I'll start with East.
I was, as you were reading, I was thinking, it seems as though George has kind of mellowed as he gets older. Like I've noticed a shift. I know he was on stage when they opened up the African American Museum of History and Culture. That was, I think he was a prominent figure in that, along with everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And now this statement, like, you can't forget where he was in his statements that he's made on race. But I think that's one thing as people that we have to accept, is that people change, and you hope that he's changed. You hope this is not lip service. Um, one thing about Bush, pretty much except for WMD, he pretty much is a straight shooter.
I agree
So,
with that. Right.
so yeah, so I like to think that, and that's one thing about people. You got to accept that your people change.
Yeah. Lizzie,
Do I? What was the initial question
the
again?
question is,
As
do you
it
feel the
relates to
statement was genuine given his past political record on race?
no, because he didn't write that statement first of all. So I don't think it was genuine.
He might have
Do I
written it.
think?
He just might have had it edited. Okay. He probably did write it. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You think that alone? Um, do I think that his stance has probably changed over the years, and he might have matured on his ideas of race relations, of equality and injustice in this country? Perhaps. What I fear is that people are starting to get this romanticized notion of who George W. Bush is and forget all of the hurt and pain that he caused this country. It wasn't about just the MDs. It was also about how they outed Valerie Plame because they were pissed that her husband called him out on the WMDs. Valerie Plame was an undercover FBI agent and actually CIA agent. And the fact that they put her life at risk and in jeopardy for that alone. But there were so many things that were wrong with his 2 terms in office that were not effective towards Black people or persons of color. But those are some things that I don't necessarily think I can just easily forget. Um, I do recognize, however, that, and I mean, I saw this with my own mother, that a lot of times as people get older, that hatefulness subsides. They take a softer stance on issues. They're easily swayed to believe or at least to consider the other side of the argument. I think it was great that he has started to form more relationships with Democrats because he wasn't very partisan when he was in the White House. I'm sorry, he wasn't very bipartisan when he was in the White House. He was definitely partisan. And now we see him, becoming more of a moderate conservative. So those are good things.
All right.
But he's one of those people that I don't trust.
So Z, what are your thoughts? Do you believe that he's genuine?
I believe that he's genuine in the grand scheme of things. I think a lot of people, when they saw the video, the murder of George Floyd, kind of stopped and let everything fall to the wayside. Their political beliefs, their prejudices, their fears, their hopes. I think in that moment, as he cried out for his mama, I think everybody was kind of, our humanity was really shown. We were all stripped bare. And I really like to think when you hear people like Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity saying, you know what, no, if this isn't okay, this is wrong. Like, I like to think, and maybe this is naive of me, that when it comes to something as basic as a person's right to live, not a right to loot or to do what they want, but just to live, just to breathe. I like to think that, yeah, it's genuine and that he believes in our right to protest and to fight for that right to live. Again, we're not fighting for a right to take a piece of his land. We're not fighting for a right, to increase taxes on the rich. We're fighting for a right to live. Yeah. And I have to believe in my heart that every human being, no matter how we, differ politically or otherwise, has that same hope and desire. So I'm going to say I buy it.
Yeah. And
I hope it's true.
I agree with you in terms of hoping it's true. I believe it is. I mean, I've kind of watched him over the years, and I've seen a big difference, especially after, Lizzie, you mentioned the Obama candy, the Michelle Obama candy on the post, the debate we had earlier. I mean, I really think he's softened. I think Obama was actually part of it, but I don't know. I think it's genuine. I think he's coming around. He's probably realizing a lot of mistakes he made. Because he was probably just doing what he knew, and he was a kind of a puppet president anyway. So, anyway, those are my thoughts. Any last thoughts on that? Because we have to move on. Okay, cool. All right, next we have our guest host Z for our first official jam session.
I'm excited.
All right, Z, what
I'm
we got?
excited for this one.
We're excited to have.
Okay, so all right. So thank you for having me again. I'm really excited about this particular topic because it kind of came up from, a discussion of white allies, and what can they do? How can they be better allies, right? So they're going to, Neil's going to show a video of a young man. Let me just set it up. A young man.
I'll pause. Go ahead.
So this young man was meeting his friend, who happens to be white, in La Mesa, California, in a very predominantly white neighborhood. And he's just standing there waiting for his friend to pick him up. And a couple of cops walked by and, said, "What are you doing here? Who are you? Why are you here? Show me ID." And he's like, "I don't have to do that." And the cop went to touch him. He pulled away, said, "Oh, you attacked me. You're under arrest." And here you go.
Damn, bro, you see your bro. Get on the ground. What am I doing? Y'all are funny as hell, bro. Niggas is funny as hell, bro. Bro. Hey, bro, fuck him.
Now there's 3 allies here.
Hey, if you wasn't
The guy with the camera is ally number 1.
Bro.
So the guy in the camera with the camera in the back, that's ally number 1. I want you to pay attention to what he does, what he says.
Yeah, do not threaten him in any way. Like I said, I'm an attorney. Don't say he.
Oh,
I don't represent you.
I'm straight now. I'm good, bro.
Okay.
I'm good. I'm just happy y'all got a show, you know what I'm saying? It's real nice.
You're on film.
Hey, this is great.
Don't worry, we got everything.
No, bro, you're straight, literally, bro. Bro, I know I'm straight for no reason.
I get it.
You know what I'm saying?
I understand.
You really don't get
Number
it.
2.
You don't get it. It's cool.
That you're frustrated.
And that's the police officer, the female police officer?
So now this is a lady police officer. This is ally number 2.
I understand you being empathetic, and I appreciate that, you know what I'm saying? But you don't get it, bro. You don't.
I'm not trying to say that I know exactly how you feel.
I know.
But I'm just saying that I understand your frustration.
So listen to me. Okay, bet. Hey.
Number 3.
Bet. Hey.
Bro, you are a whole ass bitch, bro. Oh, God.
Nobody go there.
Hey, bro, you're a whole ass faggot. Oh, God, bro. Eat dick, pussy. Bro, oh my fucking God, bro.
He owes us $20.
Nah, fuck that. You don't need my name, bro.
30.
Got me fucked up trying to put me into this shit? Nah, fuck all that, bro. You want to put me into this? I'm not fucking dumb, bro.
You left yourself into it.
Nah, fuck that, bro.
Okay. So the question I'm posing, and we can talk about, there's a lot going on in this video, obviously. There's a lot. But as you saw, there were 3 allies, right? You have the gentleman who happened to walk upon the scene. He identified himself as a lawyer, immediately started recording, and tried to de-escalate the situation and advise the young man legally, don't speak, we got you, calm down, right? Then you have ally number 2, which is the female cop, who also is white. She was trying to appeal, to his human side, trying to be empathetic. I understand, where you're coming from. I think that might have agitated him a little bit more, or maybe it calmed him down. I don't know, but that's not ally number 2. And then you have number 3, who was his friend that was picking him up. And, well, you saw his indignation, and, he was popping off. But was that helpful in the situation? I leave it to you. I mean, I personally think that obviously ally number 1 was the strongest ally, was the best ally. I think number 2 had good intentions. Well, because he was the most level-headed. He was trying to use, his resources as an attorney, his resources literally in his pocket, filming the incident to have, evidence.
Right.
he used a cool head, and he did not try to escalate the situation.
Right.
So obviously, I thought he was the strongest ally. Um, Number two, I think she was trying her best. I think she could use a little more training. I don't know, but and then number three was just completely out of control. And I want to point out number three's white privilege. When the officer was like, "Well, what's your name?" He's like, "F you, I don't have to tell you anything," and that would not happen if that was a person of color. So,
Right. So, East, what are your thoughts?
Wow. It kind of is a microcosm of what we face on a daily basis. We can't even, stand. It's like, what, like being black and barbecuing, being black and walking the dog. It's black and standing in the neighborhood. Like, just like Z said, the indignation of his friend, who seemed even more aggressive than he was. Yet, he's the one that got. I don't know what the charges are. I don't know
Perception.
what possession.
I said perception. It's about perception.
Right? Yeah. I don't know what the
Yeah.
charges were. But he got handcuffed, and it looked as though he was being placed in the patrol car to be processed, and his so-called friend was verbally aggressive towards the officers. Like Z said, it would never happen. Like if Neil was handcuffed and then I start cursing at the officers, there's two people going downtown.
That's right. We all take it a ride.
I mean, they would have thrown you to the ground. I mean, they would have. It would have been a vicious, just because they would have been mad at you.
Yeah, but see, to your point about the officer too, that tried to the situation, cultural awareness, it was kind of lacking. You're unable to empathize with this individual because you don't understand what it's like to be handcuffed, like slammed to the ground first.
Yep.
Because he was slammed down to the seated position, handcuffed, and then you're trying to say, "Well, it's going to be okay." He doesn't know that. We've all seen many videos about how this goes south quickly. So, you're right. They all officers need, at minimum, some type of cultural bias training.
And you guys didn't get to see the earlier video. Z and I saw it because I edited the video, but he really didn't do anything. But I mean, he did talk back a little bit, but other than that, he really didn't do anything. And then he got kind of bum rushed. Matter of fact, as Z said, I mean, the other guy did more. So his ally, Liz.
Absolutely. And I'm sorry, can I just add also, interestingly enough, his friend left him. His friend didn't try to get, any information. Where are you taking him? How do I get him out? He was like, deuces. Like,
I mean,
is that an ally? Is that
that's
a
my
friend?
question. Are these really allies? Go ahead, Lizzie.
No. And so I think the first guy had the most the first ally, the attorney, had the most calming effect on this young man and was really trying to de-escalate the situation, letting him know, I'm an attorney, which means I might be able to help you in the future. I know, even if you don't know what your rights are, I know what your rights are. And I'm filming this. He let him know, I got this on film, basically saying, young man, I got you. The second young lady, the police officer, I think was probably the one who posed the most threat to him because he became agitated with her when she started talking and when she started trying to pacify the situation and trying to make it seem as if she knew what he was going through and putting herself in his shoes when he told her, no, you haven't been in my shoes. You don't know what this is like. But not only that, in my opinion, her biggest mistake was, one, she didn't pull back when she saw that he became angry, was getting increasingly angry, because if that happens, then he might strike out. And then that's a whole other situation. But also, too, she never checked her colleague.
Right.
She never checked the
And
other
that's what I was going to
officer
say.
to say, what are we doing here? Honestly, is this really what we want to do? What did he actually do that was so wrong? Why are we arresting him? Why are we putting cuffs on him? And so I think because of that action alone, she, on one hand tried to seem like she understood what he was going through, but on the other side, she was very complicit and she did nothing to stop it.
Yep.
So I would say that she, out of the three, I had the most problem with her versus because she is in a position of power. His friend, that's just a little knucklehead. And hopefully his mama will see this video and tell him that he can no longer hang out with this young man before because he really isn't your ally. But that young lady, that young police officer, she did a lot of things that were not in his best interest.
Right, and that's what I was going to say is that she had the most ability to affect the situation, and she failed to. She had the most control over the situation, and she failed to be an ally as she was pretending to be. There's a couple of comments online. We have Ernest Cooper saying, I don't buy into ally number 2. Being nice and saying kind words doesn't make you an ally. Vaughn Perry says, yeah, she wasn't an ally at all. And Jacqueline Robinson says she was patronizing him. So...
Mm-hmm. And that can make you upset. That can upset him.
It can instigate the situation.
Jacqueline Robinson is my sister that I was talking about, so I guess she is watching. So hey, girl.
She's been watching for a bit. All right. So So I knew you had this topic, but I wanted to show you something because I was watching. I think it was Monday night. Chris Cuomo and was having a conversation with Angela Ray.
I don't like the term ally. It, to me, speaks to a remoteness. I'm not your ally. I love you. You're the TV family I choose. I have you on because I believe in you. I follow you because I believe in you. If somebody were to come after you, I'd be there for you. I'm not your ally. It's not out of convenience. We don't have a deal. All we have in this country is the bond of one to another. And I know it's not equal, and you know it's not equal. But we're supposed to fight for that together. I'm supposed to be fighting for that for you because that's what this country is about. That's all we have here.
But Chris, you're supposed to. And the reality of it is, for too many, it has been a choice that they've ignored for decades, for centuries.
This is America. We're Americans. We fight for one another. It's all we got in this country is our connection to each other.
That is an ideal that is so far out of reach for my people. It sounds really good. Family, I got your back specifically, but what about the black person, Chris, that you don't know? What's the thing that you're going to do with your position of power to make the road easier for that protester who you may have the least in common with? What about that person?
I think my show has to become something that talks about this when there's not someone dead in the street. And that's hard because people don't want to watch.
So that's Angela Rye. She was the former director of the National Black Caucus, and she's a political activist now. And, they were having a conversation about allies. She brought up allies, and Chris Cuomo decided he felt that he didn't like the term ally. So I'm curious what you guys think about that. Z, I want to get your perspective.
The first thing I thought when he said, I don't believe in allies. I don't believe in that. What I heard was, I don't see color. I don't, I don't see.
That's
see,
what I heard.
Race. I don't see color. Like, really? Like, dude, you know what I'm saying? Because the fact of the matter is, we have labels in society. We have a wife, a husband, a friend, a parent, a coworker, a boss. We have labels, okay? And ally, to me anyway, is the best label you can give to someone that, like that young lady said, that you don't know, but who, if I see you on the street getting choked out by the cops, I'm gonna say, I'm not gonna let you go down by yourself. I'm gonna be your ally.
That's an ally.
Because I'm not your friend. I don't know you, but you're my sister in humanity. You're my brother in humanity. All right, so maybe that's what we need to do. Get rid of ally and call each other brothers and sisters. I don't know if that would make it better, but that to me is what ally means. I'm not going to I'm not going to let another country come and bomb you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to let a cop come and take your life on the street, you know? So, I mean, I don't know what else he wants to call it.
Right.
And I don't know
Lizzie.
what's so offensive about it.
Lizzie.
It shouldn't even come up. It's like a wasted argument.
Yep.
It's semantics. It's a word. It's a play on words. And like Z just gave the definition of an ally, he tried to change it to something completely different when he was like, "I'm not your friend." Well, that's not what ally means. It means someone who has your back,
Mm-hmm.
who's in your corner, who will fight with you, who will take up your cause, who is standing. That's an ally. It doesn't connote friend. It means someone who has your back. And so if I was, Angela in that situation, I'm like, you're getting totally off course of what I am talking about.
Yeah, she did kind of rein him in a few times. Those were just a couple of clips, but she did rein him in and put him on track several times.
Yeah, I mean, I see nothing wrong with the word ally at all.
East?
I think one thing that also I noted was that how defensive Cuomo got. Like, this is kind of a new, like, in this open conversation that we need to have, Caucasian, non-black and brown people, that their immediate recourse is defensive.
Yep.
Like Z said, I don't see color. I'm not your ally. But, okay, no. We need to. You need to have my back.
Right.
Like if Neil or myself, Lizzie, Z, if we're being confronted in the street for no problem, for nothing, I need to know that you're going to say, "Hey, look, that's enough."
Right.
Go on. I don't need you to turn the other way and say, "Well, that's another one of them." He probably did something wrong, so that's why he's getting hassled by the police.
Yeah.
No, that's not needed right now. Like, and I think we have to get past that initial defensive recourse when we start having these racial conversations in order to better move forward.
Okay. Z, I'm gonna give you the last thought on this if you have it. But we do need to move on. Go ahead.
Last thought on this is just, listen, we don't have to be friends. And that, and I think that, look, we're always going to have a little prejudice. We're always going to not like somebody because of something stupid or superficial. And no one's asking to kumbaya and be friends and have me over for dinner. Yep. That's not the definition of ally. So, people need to kind of recognize that it just means looking out for humanity. And that's it.
All right. Lizzie, what you got next?
What we got next? So we're going to talk about adoption a little bit. It's something that I've thought about. I'm single. I don't have any children. I am an old lady, with dried up inside. So if I want to have kids,
you can still have kids. They're not dried up.
Adoption might be the best option for me. But there's a story that's been trending over the last week or so about a YouTuber, a YouTube influencer. Her name is Micah Stoffer. And she and her husband, they had 5 kids, one of whom they adopted 2 years ago, actually almost 3 years ago now. They adopted him in 2017 from China. And they have since, they have this YouTube channel. They always showcase the kids on the channel. And then all of a sudden, I would say like maybe a month and a half ago, her followers noticed that this kid was no longer in the videos. He was no longer a part of the conversation. He basically disappeared. And so they started to inquire about him, what happened to him. His name is Huxley. He's currently 4 years old. And so they started to inquire about him. And then last week, Micah made the statement saying that they had rehomed him because he was a problem child. They had rehomed him. I think the formal term is adoption dissolution, meaning you adopt a child, for whatever reason you don't like the child doesn't like you think the child is not working in your home, so you basically give the child back. They have rehomed him, but what is happening is now there is an investigation because they have not told authorities where they sent him. Initially, this was
Yeah.
a formal adoption. They went through an adoption agency. Now they're being very tight-lipped about where they sent this young man. As of this morning, no one knows where he is, and there's a formal investigation going on, trying to figure out who did you give him to? What were the circumstances of that adoption? There was a case, I would say, I think it was in 2010, with an American woman. Her name was Tori Hansen. She adopted a 7-year-old young boy from Russia, had him in her home for maybe 6 months to a year, and then all of a sudden decided that he had behavioral issues. So she didn't want him anymore. He does not fit here. We can't deal with him. Not only did she send him back to Russia, and at that point he was 7.5, almost 8. Not only did she send him back to Russia, she sent him back on a plane by himself.
Right.
No one knew he was coming to Russia. He showed up at the airport with
Yeah, I
his
remember that.
to, the Russian embassy, whatever. And so my question to the group is this right? Like, do you have the right to adopt a child and then say, nah, bruh, this ain't working. You got to go back.
Can I
You got
start
to go
off?
back. Sure.
Right. I, kids are tough. I've gotten dogs, and I've seen some dogs that were rough, but kids can be tough. I think there's some times when you find that you're in over your head with the child, and the worst thing for the child is to be in a situation where the parents may not love that child or may treat that child poorly because they have some disdain, some anger, some disappointments. The child loses in those situations. I would prefer to see the child in a better situation. That's my initial thought.
So you said as long as you keep the receipt, everything's okay.
Shouldn't be that simple. I'm not suggesting it should be that simple. But
take them down to the FSA. They got store credit.
I'm not claiming it should be that simple, but I'm just saying. Go ahead, East. What you got?
Yeah, see, you got store credit. We trade babies over here with Neo.
But go ahead.
Traded babies.
I would never. I don't believe that I would ever return a child, but I'm just saying I can understand situations, and I think it would be better for the child. But go ahead, East.
Okay. You're right. First of all, that's common ground. Kids are difficult. When you decide to be a parent, I mean that's a major undertaking. I am the parent of a special needs child, and it's extremely difficult. But I wouldn't trade it for anything. I love my daughter. Excuse me. But when you sign up to be an adopted parent, like you're undertaking, you hope you get as much background information as possible. You hope to, in an ideal circumstance, you want to talk to the agency to see if they've spoken to the parent, because unlike being parents of your own kids, you don't know the biology of that kid. But once you sign to be a parent, to me, that's your kid. You have to write it out. You have to get the resources in place. Neil, I definitely respect what you're saying, but I think once that's your kid. You don't have you shouldn't give up on your kid. Now, it happens, but those parents are charged with neglect.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're willing to accept the neglect charge and and go through that process of having the law enforcement come into your life, give the kid back.
All right, Z. What do you think?
Listen, I'm look, I'm one of those people who I believe in the right to, in the right to say, I don't want to have children, or I want to have children, or, or whatever. The thing that bothers me is when people don't think about the decision either way.
Yeah.
And I don't mean thinking about, the Kodak moments and how cute and, oh, people are going to love me because I adopted a kid. Yeah. No, I'm talking about like at 5, at 7, at 10, when they need braces, when they break their leg, when they get into a fight, when they have the issues that come up from their own, history that you don't know about that come up later, and, you know, I feel like you have to get a license to drive. Have you adopt a dog. You know
Yep.
how crazy it is, how difficult, you know what I'm saying? They microchip it. If you
Come
give
to
it
your
back,
house, check your house out.
they, they put you on a list where you can't adopt if you bring that dog back. Like, so there
Oh, I
is
didn't
no
know that.
rehoming.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah. So it's kind of like, I don't see how you could treat a human like that. Again, I feel like I don't know if it's societal, I don't know what's going on, but we have devalued human life. We're treating life as a commodity. I mean, I guess that's always been the case, as far as slavery, but to literally be like, I'm going to take this child, I have 5 other children already, but I can't have, well, throw it back. I think that's gross. It's responsible.
Lizzie?
And then to add insult to injury, you don't know where the kid is.
Yeah. Yeah,
The kid.
that's like a separate issue. I mean, where the heck is? But Lizzie, so I mean, you didn't share your thoughts. What are your thoughts?
So, and I hope my sister is still watching because I think she'll remember this story. One of her friends growing up adopted a young boy. This was back in, I want to say, the mid to late 80s. Adopted a young boy who was, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7. And within a year, she gave him back. And I remember when my sister told me this story, I was just like, that doesn't even make any sense. Like, I didn't know there were do-overs. I didn't know
I
that
didn't
you
know it
could just
either.
like trade a child in, just because you didn't get along or just because, things are a little rough here and there. I
Yeah.
think what people need to realize is that there is no perfect child, whether that be a child that you adopt or a child that you have biologically. There is no perfect child. If by chance something you were to have a biological child and they have behavioral problems or they have, some type of disease or something like that, you don't get to just give the child away. And there's no indication with any of these cases how much these parents worked, how many resources they sought out to try to help both them and the child come to some type of resolution. And we're talking about, in the 2 cases that I mentioned, we're talking about international adoptions.
Yeah.
So these are children that were brought here who do not speak any English, who were brought from a different culture, a different environment. And then one day it's like, no, you don't fit in. You got to go back. You got to go back. So that's my take.
I just want to make one last statement though. So I'm not suggesting that we just give children away. It is appalling to me, and even the thought of it is appalling to me. But having grown up in an abusive situation, I love your idea of there should be stages before you return a child. There should be, some type of counseling, some type of process that is not easy to return a child. But I don't want children in bad situations. So, because that's important to me, and that's what I'm saying.
Right.
I'm not suggesting just return a child. As Sheridan, as he said, return a receipt. I'm saying what's important is the child. That's what I'm saying. All right. So,
no, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. So we're gonna move on to East.
Yes, sir. We're talking about West Sunset.
Oh, West Sunset. Okay.
Oh.
Got you covered.
Yeah. We
for the first time in 36 years, Washington, D.C. has a major sports world champion.
ladies and
When you
gentlemen,
think
yes,
of
it did
Washington,
happen back
D.C.,
in the
you think
70s.
of many of the monuments, and I think
But
Wes
yes,
Unseld goes
the,
down in history
the
as one of
Washington
the
basketball team,
great
they
Washington
were champions
monuments.
at one point. And that man, Wes Unseld, was the major reason why. Um, hell of a basketball player. And to make the Hall of Fame, if you just look at his numbers, I looked at the numbers, he averaged less than 11 points a game, 14 rebounds a game. And you wonder why. How did this guy make the Hall of Fame? But then it's like, okay, he was the Rookie of the Year and MVP of the league during the same year. Only he and Wilt Chamberlain did that. Actually, his signature move, he had two. The outlet pass after he grabbed the rebound and his picks. He set these, what they call bone jarring picks on his opponent to
So he
open
said
up.
picks like you.
Like back in my old days, yeah. But yeah, like I mean, he led the franchise in every major category except assists, and John Wall just became the franchise assist leader in 2016, I believe.
Wow.
He was he's Mr. Bullet. Like he's every successful iteration of Washington Bullet / Wizard basketball starts and ends with him. In the 70s, the Bullets were a problem. They went to the finals 3 times, mainly because of Wes, and he was a heck of a player. And he's going to be missed. He had a lot of health issues, unfortunately.
When did he pass?
Yeah, he had a lot of health issues when he passed. They said the official cause was pneumonia, but the family released that he had a lot of health issues.
When did he
He was
pass?
74. Kind of young.
I believe it was on Sunday. Sunday or Monday. Yeah.
Yeah.
As a native Washingtonian, I feel sad that a lot of this generation of sports fans in the city, some of them have never heard of Wes Unseld. Some of them don't appreciate, what he meant to the DC basketball franchise. And it's because it was, happened in the 70s or what have you, but because of the name change. They're not familiar with the Washington Bullets. They know the Wizards. They know current present day NBA basketball. But it must feel like, the Knicks. Like, we hear about the Knicks all the time, but the Knicks haven't won a championship since Jesus wept. And so that's the same thing as the Bullets. I honestly, I'm a sports journalist. I honestly forget that they won a championship. And it's thanks to Wes Unseld. So definitely rest in peace.
Yeah.
I just want to say also, he was listed as 6'7", 245 pounds. And mind you, at that day and age, he was going against Kareem, Abdul-Jabbar, Willis Reed, some of the premier centers, not just of all time. And he's consistently 5 to 6 inches shorter. Now he's strong as the ox, but he said it himself. He was mostly at a deficit athletically going into every game, and to carve out a Hall of Fame career is amazing. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace, Wes Unseld. All right, Z. Let's get the next one. What you got?
All right. We have Facebook. Facebook staffers walk out. Zuckerberg should have followed suit with Twitter and, labeled Trump's incendiary posts or whatever. And, so these staffers are not only out within the organization, but publicly, even going so far as to publicly tweet their support of Twitter. So encouraging their, I don't want to call it, their underlings, their staff, to do the same, to speak out against leadership if that's how they feel. So my question to you is, one, should employees speak out when they oppose leadership when it comes to topics like today? And is it the responsibility of the higher ups to encourage staff to feel comfortable to speak out? And should there be ramifications?
Yep.
At work.
All right, Lizzie.
I think that if you are going to speak out, I think you need to prepare yourself for ramifications. I think you shouldn't go into it with this idealistic image of, okay, I'm going to be, um, Rosa Parks or something like that, and but there's not going to be any pushback. Something similar happened to at Sports Illustrated very recently, where one of the staffers he got on Twitter. So Sports Illustrated is under new management, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they folded very soon. But he got on Twitter and social media, and he totally blasted the new management. Repeatedly talked a lot of mess about the CEO, and gave some indication about what they offered him in his contract or whatever. And so, one, there's a morals clause. And so if you think that you're going to speak out, you really need to check and see what type of contract that you sign with your company and what your rights are, and if you can be protected. Well, he was not protected, and they fired him with the quickness. And so all of these people, my former colleagues at Sports Illustrated were outraged, whatever, and I'm just like, I know I would get fired if I said the things that he said on Twitter about my new employer. This is about people he doesn't even know. So he has no history with these people. As it relates to Facebook, I think they have a legitimate concern and a legitimate reason to speak out, because as employees, his stance affects them as well, and their reputation and their beliefs. And so I know I read about one guy from Facebook who did quit. He was in an executive position. He did quit. A few others have taken to social media to talk about their displeasure and how they don't agree with Zuckerberg's stance as it relates to Trump and what he's been saying, the inflammatory comments he's been making. But I like, for Zuckerberg, I'm like, what is your end game here? What is your goal here?
Yeah,
Like,
what is he trying to do? I don't get it either.
Why are you taking this position? Like, I don't understand where his head is here.
Doesn't make sense.
And, right now he doesn't really have any competition in terms of a similar platform.
He doesn't.
Like Facebook. But let somebody come up with, you guys are techies, you guys, make something up tomorrow. I will be there.
I don't know if I can compete with Facebook. East,
Bring back MySpace.
Black Planet.
Yeah, like, just to build upon what Lizzie was saying, like, there's levels, right?
Yeah.
One thing that, watching The Last Dance with Jordan and the Bulls, like, Jordan and Pippen trashed the general manager every time they could.
They did.
Right?
About him constantly.
Now, those happen to be the two best players on the team. One was the best player in the league. One was arguably top 5 at the time.
Yeah.
So if you're bringing the franchise money, you're bringing the NBA money.
Leverage.
You're helping making this league a $1 billion industry. You can trash the GM. That who's your supervisor. And in a similar vein, like, if at Facebook, if you're generating millions or billions of dollars, helping generate millions and billions of dollars for Facebook, they're probably going to look the other way if you have something negative to say.
So Zuckerberg has something bad to say.
Yeah, if you have something bad to say, as long as you're going to continue to work for them. Now, if you're the low person on the totem pole, and you spout off about your supervisor, I hope you have your resume ready, because they will not hesitate to fire you. So there's just levels to what you can say, or who you can say, or what you can do.
Z, I'm glad you asked this question, because I'm personally pissed at Zuckerberg, because actually owned stock in Facebook, a lot of stock, and so he kind of pissed me off. I almost wanted to sell it all, to be honest with you. But I mean, the thing that bothers me is that we got this the other day, right? And so we inadvertently posted a faked image with Trump and Hitler, and so they went ahead and cited us. They fact checked us, which I'm fine with personally, because I want to make sure if I put something out wrong. My problem is, where's the consistency? How are you going to fact check this, but you're not going to fact check Trump? That's not right. I have a problem with that. I don't like the inconsistency. That is a problem because he's getting special treatment, and that is not right. So I'm really pissed. I mean,
but to my point, like Trump, he's making all these people money. Facebook, Twitter, MSNBC, CNN, Fox News.
Multiple ways.
You listen to CNN
Taxes.
and MSNBC. Yeah, they hated the business people on that end. They love Trump because he's generating ratings for those people. You have the experts come on. Yeah, they don't like his policy or whatever. Or, they always say, "Oh, he lied." But when Trump says he's good for business, he's actually telling the truth. Yeah. They're not. They don't want to rein him in because it's a gravy train.
Yep.
You're not gonna. They don't want to stop that.
Yep. All right.
Well, can I kind of pose can I just pose a question? Do you think that companies should make a statement regarding George Floyd's death? Do you think it's their responsibility to say something to their employees?
Oh,
forget saying something just
internally.
Yeah, acknowledging. Yes, internally. It is. They should. Do you think employees should have made some kind of statement?
I'd say yes. I'd say it should be addressed. It's still touchy though, but it could be addressed. I mean, the bigger problem, how do we respond to the NFL saying something? How do we respond to Bush's letter? The problem is you kind of set yourself up for potentially saying the wrong thing that could be offensive to the wrong person. So it's kind of difficult, though. I mean, because what if you put out a letter, like my wife owns a business, and what if she put out something in there and one of the employees were offended, and then that gets out, and then everybody hates her business? Or, sometimes you can make a minor mistake that gets blown up. So it's a tough situation. But all right, so I just want to point out some comments. Jacqueline Robinson said, all Zuckerberg cares about is that ad revenue. He doesn't care about the sources of revenue. He hasn't learned his lessons from 2016. So, all right, so the next topic. This is going to be the last one because we're out of time. But here's my question. So, there's a Harvard researcher who did a study saying that couples should wear face masks during sex. Oh. On top of that, the UK government announced that having sex with someone you don't live with is illegal. So, my question is simple to you guys. Are you guys wearing masks?
I never stopped. I never stopped.
Are you guys going to be wearing masks when you're having sex?
Who am I having sex with?
Okay, I can't speak to that. I can't answer for you. I mean,
but no, what? No, that's stupid.
That's crazy. Well, listen. I mean, it's something different. It depends on what you're into. I'm not but honestly, how are they going to verify that you're only sleeping who you're living with?
I know, right? How are they going to even do that?
They're going to verify that. Mario, I hear you knocking boots. Show me some ID.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know who's in the cosplay or anything like that out there. That's your business. But Speaking for myself, as given my current size, I need as much oxygen as I can get. So it's no mask.
All right, so
You got your-
so that's our jam sessions for the night, guys. That was a good one. Enjoyed it. That was fun. All right, now I do want to close it out with a little fun. Every episode, we always try to close it out with a little fun, right? So let's do this. I have a game for you. It's a really quick one, and all you have to do is hold up 10 fingers. That's it, just 10 fingers, and then follow instructions. All right?
My nails.
Let's see.
I'm gonna show it.
You can do it this way, either way you want. 10 fingers, and then follow instructions, okay?
Check your privilege edition.
Oh, did it go out? Let me see. We start it back up. Hold on.
Check your privilege edition. Put a finger down if you have been called a racial slur. Put a finger down if you've been followed in a store unnecessarily. Put a finger down if someone has crossed the street to avoid passing you. Put a finger down if you've had someone clench their purse in an elevator with you. Put a finger down if you've had someone step off of an elevator to keep from riding with you. Put a finger down if you've been accused of not being able to afford something expensive. Put a finger down if you have had fear in your heart when being stopped by the police. Put a finger down if you have never been given a pass on a citation that you deserved. Put a finger down if you have been stopped or detained by police for no valid reason. Put a finger down if you have been bullied solely because of your race. Put a finger down if you have been denied service solely because of the color of your skin. Put a finger down if you've ever had to teach your child how not to get killed by the police. Any fingers left? That's privilege.
I got 3.
I got 4. I got 4.
Oh, East.
Wow. 1.
Dang, bruh.
Wow.
I wonder if it has anything to do with the hue in the skin. I'm curious. I'm just saying. I mean, the whole question is about privilege, right?
I'm trying to say.
The whole question is about privilege, right? Black male.
I think that has a lot to do with it. I will say this about one of the questions though. In these Rona days, I think the question doesn't necessarily apply because people are getting off of elevators when they see one or more person in the elevator.
Yeah.
So that's a little sketchy, but everything else, yeah.
Ernest got 0.
So he's a Bama, so.
All right, he's a Bama. All right, we're going to do some shout outs before we close out. So shout out to anybody you want, guys. Anybody you saw online you want to shout out to?
Shout out to my new sister, that's named Jacqueline Robinson, for the first time she's joined the show. Pleasure to have you. Also, shout out to no-fellows Ernest Cooper and Vaughn Perry. Good to have fellow Wilson Tigers join us every evening. Stay safe, everyone. Stay inside. Be good.
We have Regina. We had.
Oh, yeah, Regina.
Regina was on Rooka, Mel. Anybody else?
Shout out to Carla.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you
Gotta
for the
get that
support.
What's up, Carla?
All right.
Shout out to Chef Jeff.
Chef Jeff. I know Chef Jeff. I like Chef Jeff. All right. So let's close it on out. So we want to thank you guys for joining us. It's been a really fun show. Now, don't forget to like us, subscribe, follow YouTube, Twitter, etc. All right. And that's going to be at TLS Live Show. All right. And then we'll see you on Sunday, 4 p.m., where we'll have actually a new guest host. Her name is B-Girl. All right, so it should be a really good, fun conversation. And I'm going to give the last word to Z.
So my last word will literally be empathy. I want to remind everybody that all hurting, that some of us, more than others. The coming weeks to remember things may not perfectly, things may be said out of anger, things may be said, without thinking, and I just want everybody to give each other just the benefit of the doubt. You know, be empathetic. Try to put yourself in the other person's shoes, because we're all really hurting.
All right. All right. Thank you, Z. And we thank you so much for joining us. And we will see you soon. Good night, guys. Great show.
Good night.
Parents, keep your receipts on those kids.